This is TLC-To-Go.
All right, welcome back to The Deep Dive. And today, we've got a really great source. It feels fundamental for anyone teaching in higher ed, but especially relevant for those in the demanding world of health sciences. Our deep dive today is into a resource from the UTHSC Teaching and Learning Center, and it's all about syllabus design.
Yeah, and for health sciences faculty, a syllabus isn't just paperwork. It's absolutely critical. It's the foundation for some really complex, often high-stakes learning.
Good point.
So our mission today is to unpack what this specific UTHSC resource tells us about making syllabi truly effective. Why they matter, the practical tips they offer, and maybe where you can look if you want to explore these ideas even more.
Right, getting that core knowledge from this source quickly and clearly tailored for you.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's get into it. The source starts right off with defining what a syllabus actually is. They call it a roadmap for successfully navigating a course.
I like that. A roadmap. That metaphor works, doesn't it?
It does.
It frames it immediately as a tool for the student, something to guide their journey. And according to this resource, that map needs to show all the important stuff. Course content details, requirements, assignments, how assessment works, policies, resources available, the schedule.
All the landmarks.
Yeah, and crucially, the expectations and responsibilities for everyone involved, faculty and students.
And what I found interesting is the language they use beyond just roadmap. The source also describes the syllabus as an agreement, invitation, between faculty and students.
Yes, that phrase agreement, invitation, it's subtle, but I think quite powerful.
How so?
Well, it shifts the feeling, doesn't it? From just a rigid contract to something a bit more collaborative. Like, it's not just rules being handed down.
More of a welcome.
Exactly. A mutual understanding, maybe even a welcoming gesture. The source says it contains promises of what students will learn and how they will demonstrate learning. It sort of sets a partnership tone right from the start.
Promises of learning. I like that. It focuses on the educational goal, not just the rules. And they also give 3 key characteristics a good syllabus should have. It should be valuable, succinct, and accessible to students.
Those 3 are the real tests, aren't they? Valuable means it's got information students genuinely need to succeed. Not just everything the instructor could possibly say.
Right, not a brain dump.
No. And succinct, so important, especially in health sciences where students are juggling so much, they need to find info quickly without wading through jargon or, pages of text.
Makes sense. And accessible.
Accessible means easy to find, easy to read, clearly laid out, and importantly, written in language that's easy to grasp.
I'm thinking about our listeners, faculty in health sciences. I mean, the material is complex. It builds on itself. There are high-stakes clinical skills, patient care things. Having a syllabus that nails those 3 valuable, succinct, accessible seems absolutely vital.
Oh, absolutely paramount. It's often the very first thing they see. And it sets the tone for navigating all that complexity. Clarity on things like, say, assessment methods or prerequisites for clinicals or safety protocols.
Non-negotiable stuff.
Right. An accessible syllabus helps them find that critical info when they need it. It can really reduce anxiety and hopefully errors, too.
Okay, so that's the what and why, according to this resource. Let's shift to the how. What practical teaching tips does it offer for actually creating this kind of syllabus? They suggest faculty start by asking themselves some guiding questions.
Yes, and these questions seem designed to put the student's perspective front and center. The first one is pretty direct. What do the students need to know?
Need to know, not just nice to know.
Exactly, the essentials. Then there's, what do you want the students to know about the course? Which feels more about the framing, the passion, the connection to their future profession, maybe.
Yeah, the why this matters part.
And this next one forces that user-centered view. In what way will the syllabus be truly useful to the students? Is it just for reference, or can it actively help them learn?
How does it become a working tool for them?
Yeah, right.
And finally, building on that, what information and tools can you provide for your students to promote learning and intellectual development?
That really frames the syllabus not just as rules, but as a kind of supportive resource hub, pointing students toward success.
Thinking through those questions seems like it would really shift the focus from just describing the course to actually designing something for the student's journey.
I think so too. It helps make sure everything included actually serves a purpose related to their success, especially with complex topics like anatomy or pharmacology or clinical work.
And the advice that follows is pretty straightforward. Be explicit and transparent about expectations.
Transparency is just so key, isn't it? Especially where there are steep learning curves or very specific requirements labs, professional behavior, things like that.
Definitely.
Being crystal clear about grading, deadlines, collaboration rules, attendance, even just how to communicate with the instructor, it can head off so many problems and just lower student stress.
Now, here's a specific tip mentioned that caught my eye. Kind of fun. Hiding an Easter egg in the syllabus.
Ah, yes. This is brilliant, I think, because it tackles that age-old problem, getting students to actually read the thing.
Totally. Turns it into a bit of a treasure hunt. The source mentions things like asking students to email you a picture of, I don't know, a specific cartoon character, or offering a small prize, like lunch, to the first person who finds it.
It's a clever way to incentivize reading it thoroughly, but also injects a bit of personality, a bit of fun into it. Can often be a pretty dry document.
Yeah, and it reinforces that engaging with the syllabus matters, which, as we said, is vital in health sciences.
Exactly. And alongside being explicit and maybe playful, the source also really stresses the importance of tone. Use a positive, respectful, and inviting tone to address the students.
That connects back to the invitation idea we talked about earlier.
It really does. The tone sets the first impression of the course and of you. In fields where students might feel, intimidated by the difficulty or the stakes, a welcoming, respectful tone in the syllabus can make a huge difference.
It makes them feel more supported.
I think so. Supported, more comfortable, maybe more willing to engage. It just helps create a more positive learning environment right from day one. It signals your partners in this, not adversaries.
Makes a lot of sense. So for listeners who are thinking, okay, I want to explore this more, the source actually points to specific resources for digging deeper.
Which is really helpful. It doesn't just leave you hanging. First, they list their own document, the UTHSC TLC course syllabus guide itself.
The mothership, presumably.
Right. If you're at UTHSC or just want to see their full guidance, that's the obvious place to start for all the details.
But they also look outwards. They mention a resource from Cornell University on creating a student-centered syllabus.
Yeah, and that fits perfectly with those guiding questions, making it useful to the student, providing tools for their learning. A student-centered approach really prioritizes clarity, accessibility, serving the learner.
And they get very specific with one resource, an article in TLC Impact by KJ Fulkerson-Dikua from 2023. The focus: using Qualtrics to create an interactive syllabus.
An interactive syllabus. Now that sounds interesting.
Right.
Qualtrics is usually for surveys, right? So imagine using it so students don't just read text, but maybe click through sections, answer quick checks on policies, or access links or videos right there in the syllabus.
Wow. Yeah, that definitely pushes it beyond just a static document. Makes it more of a dynamic tool.
Mm-hmm. They also list an advice guide from the Chronicle of Higher Education by Kay Gannon from 2018 called How to Create a Syllabus.
The Chronicle, that sounds like it would be a practical, maybe broader overview of best practices.
Probably a good starting point if you're looking for general guidance on syllabus construction from a well-known source in academia.
And finally, they recommend a book, Designing a Motivational Syllabus, Creating a Learning Path for Student Engagement by C. Harrington and M. Thomas, also from 2018.
A motivational syllabus. That really echoes that invitation idea again, doesn't it?
It does.
That book likely gets into the psychology, how the structure, the language, the content can actually encourage students' own motivation and engagement rather than just listing hoops they have to jump through.
So the source really gives you a pathway from the basics to practical tips, student-centered ideas, interactive approaches, even motivational strategies, all backed by specific resources.
Okay, so if we pull all this together, what's the big takeaway from this UTHSC resource?
For me, it's seeing the syllabus as much more than just a required document or list of rules and dates. This resource really reframes it as a foundational tool, something valuable, accessible.
The roadmap and the invitation.
Exactly. A transparent roadmap, a clear statement of expectations, a supportive guide, and that genuine invitation to students to engage with the course and their own learning.
And for health sciences faculty specifically, where every detail can impact understanding and future practice, using that silliness effectively valuable, succinct, accessible, provides that crucial clarity. It sets a positive collaborative tone for what are often really challenging academic paths.
It fosters that initial connection, lays the groundwork.
Absolutely. Which brings us to a thought to maybe leave you with.
Okay.
This resource talks about the syllabus as an agreement or invitation, and it points towards resources for interactive syllabi.
Right.
So If we stop thinking about the syllabus as just the static list of requirements we hand down, and instead we start thinking about it as maybe an evolving, potentially interactive invitation to a learning partnership, how might that fundamentally change not just how we design it, but maybe how students engage with it, and maybe even the whole learning dynamic of the course? Just something to chew on.
That's a great question. Less of a rule book, more of a dynamic handshake to start things off.
Something like that.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into this really insightful resource on syllabus design from the UTHSC Teaching and Learning Center. It's clear there's a lot of potential in this foundational document if we view it strategically.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing this source material with us. It was great to explore these ideas. Hopefully this overview of the core concepts, the tips, the resources, hopefully it's immediately valuable for you.
Absolutely. And thanks to you, the listener, for joining us for this deep dive.
Till next time, keep exploring and maybe happy syllabus designing.